Raised in Hamilton, where he attended Ballard and Delta schools, and later worked as a lab technician for 2 years at Dofasco. Always wanted to be a radio announcer, Bob left Dofasco and in 1965 began a career that would last for 45 years. He hosted the #1 rated morning show on CHML in Hamilton for almost 2 decades. Bob's greatest asset is his ability to communicate and connect with people. He is a tireless worker for the neighbors, residents, and businesses of the city. He has continually been voted as one of Hamilton's most trustworthy politicians. Please help me in introducing Mayor Bratina and his State of the City address.
Well, what a pleasure it is to be here with you, and I have prepared text so I don't wander and take you away from your busy afternoon. But I do have a couple of remarks to make. First of all, thanks to Maria Pearson for joining us today, Councillor Pearson. I know Brenda Johnson was hoping she could be here, as well as Councillor Clark. Councillor Clark wanted to remind everyone that he's been working closely with our staff and Heritage Green Community Trust to raise the funds. And I know Maria's been supportive of this, the Smith's Knoll project, which is a crucial part of the Stony Creek battlefield. And so this will allow archaeological investigation of human remains, and the results will be a part of the story of what happened 200 years ago. And a new community parkette in the green space beside our fountain. Dave Zimmer and Gary Moore and our staff have been getting that done. So Councillor Clark does send his regrets at not being here today. I also want to, I love coming up to Stony Creek. Ann Bain is here, and Ann Bain was part of a very progressive council that really set the stage for the progress that Stony Creek had, and we could have learned many lessons from the way Stony Creek designed, planned their community, and we're sitting here in the middle of a wonderful industrial area that I'm going to refer to in a moment. Also, the suit I'm wearing was handmade in Stony Creek and Stony Creek Tailors, which is another great success story of Hamilton, because we're a city of opportunity, and here are Armenians from Turkey who decide they've got to go somewhere else because things are getting a little tense there, and they are top-notch clothiers here in Hamilton, Stony Creek. Also, I'm really pleased to see Eric Gert, Deputy Chief, joining us. Right now we're talking about our police budget, and we had a slide the other day that showed the cost for municipal services for the average home on a dollar basis, and the police are at the top of that at $44 per month versus $32 for fire, and so on. But the point I want to make is that the previous mayor had a community survey called Your City, Your Future, and a number of topics were addressed. And on the subject of, on the list below, please identify what you believe are the 5 most important services provided by the city. And number 1 was police service. So it's proper that that number is number 1 based on the ratings. 2 was fire services, 3 emergency medical services, and so on. So you can look up that documentation. It's very interesting as we prepare for the 2013 budget. Now, this is my 3rd State of the City address, and as with the first 2, we're presenting in different areas of Hamilton to reflect on and reinforce the strength and heritage and importance of every part of our city. It's appropriate that Stony Creek is our venue today because of its importance to the economic well-being of our community. And I want to thank today's program sponsor, Cubes, whose success has derived from the very things I want to talk about today. Cubes Steel offers a range of custom roll form services for structural steel sections, metal sheet, tube, angled pipe, and beams, and their expertise has made them a leader in architectural exposed structural steel projects throughout North America. Cubes Steel is the result of over 3 decades of investment in founder Joe Cube's vision, which is a vision that we at the city would do well to emulate, to be the best at what they do by investment in plant equipment, training, technology, and most importantly, people. So John and the Cubes family, thank you so much for sponsoring today. helping to inspire our vision. Now, I have great news about the progress that we've been making with our economy, especially the diversity that has resulted in the lowest unemployment rate among major Ontario cities. 5.9% against the provincial average of about 8%. And the best evidence of that diversity is right here, along Barton and the Queenie, Arvin Avenue, Seaman, and the surrounding employment district. When people talk about the steel industry in Hamilton, they sometimes think that the much lower number of employees they see at ArcelorMittal Dofasco, as example, and U.S. Steel, are a sign of the industry in decline. But a lot of those jobs have simply moved east to Stony Creek and elsewhere. It's in this part of the city that the steel service centers and a lot of the finishing and value-added operation takes place in companies like Cubes and all of the machine shops and engineering firms that service the steel industry. Some of the decline in steel industry employment was due to contracting out of many functions. The functions that were being done in the plant when I was there in the 1960s is far different, and there are far more contractors on site at those plants. So I'm happy to be in Stony Creek for these reasons, and because it is home to many of our most successful risk takers and business people. I'm here today to talk about a 21st century vision for Hamilton. We are 12 full years into the 21st century, but in many ways we continue to operate in a culture and framework that dates back to the 1990s. While the city and its economy are firmly progressing into the century, it's important that our institutions like municipal government are not still operating as if we were in the 90s. So we will review the accomplishments of 2012 and look at how to provide a more open form of government, one that uses technology to better engage its citizens. 2012 was a banner year statistically, but also important because in April of 2012, my colleagues on council approved a strategic plan to carry us through to 2015. And out of that plan came a number of strategic objectives that allow us to measure how we have done. So the first of these strategic objectives was to continue to grow the non-residential tax base. And did we ever do that? 2012 was the biggest year by far in the issuing of new building permits. $1.5 billion in new building permits, which exceeded the previous record we set in 2010 of about $1 billion, which was way more than ever before. So that's how well we're doing, of which residential made up less than half. New commercial real estate hit its highest number ever, as did industrial. So just to put it into perspective, last year's total building permits is triple what we achieved at the beginning of the 21st century. And when we talk about commercial and industrial expansion, we are also talking about taxation revenue that is coming from sources other than the homeowner. And with commercial and industrial construction, we get permanent jobs once those facilities are built. So it's all good and it reflects the wisdom of assembling employment lands and building the infrastructure that is now attracting new business. Another strategic priority is to promote economic opportunities with a focus on Hamilton's downtown core, all downtown areas, and our waterfronts. And what a difference a year makes in our downtown. The construction of the McMaster Medical School and Clinic at Bay and Main is now underway. All 16 stories of the new Hilton Hotel across the street are up. External cladding is now being applied. And sometime later this year, perhaps in late summer, the hotel will be ready to take its first guests. The old Federal Building residential project is taking shape quickly at Main and Caroline, and between that and the hotel, you can see a third structure going up, which is a 25-story condominium building rising from the ground. I brought the pictures to show you, and so let me hold them up. There's the 16-story Hilton. In September, the developer told me that he would put one floor up a week and it would be roofed off by December, and that's exactly what happened. So when you see the top 15 stories, they went up 1 week at a time with a productivity rate that is the envy of anybody. And then the other two projects on that site are in the front, the old Federal Building. I don't know if you can see that. I hope you can. And then beside it, the 25-story condominium tower. Okay, so you can see the brick closest to me, and then the big tower that most people haven't really noticed yet, but is going up as well. So the new taxes generated by these projects will be in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, along with the hundreds of new jobs to service the hotel. By May, the downtown will finally get its long-awaited full-service grocery store, the Nation Gourmet Supermarket in Jackson Square. Urban planners have been telling us for years that a food store is a sign that a downtown has reached a critical mass when it comes to attracting people to live downtown. The developers of the Royal Connaught have just acknowledged the new reality since downtown by announcing their long-awaited plan to bring the old hotel back to life as a mixed residential commercial operation. Taxes on that site right now are about $20,000. Taxes on comparable built-up sites in and around the downtown core are in the range of $250,000 to $500,000. So that's the increase in revenues to the city when the Connaught, as an example, comes back to life. And I could give you some specific examples, the Staybridge Suites and so on. $40,000 empty lots turning into $250,000 functioning commercial residential enterprises. So you can see why one of my priorities, both as councillor when I started and mayor, has been to bring downtown properties to a much higher standard of utilization. You have Staybridge Suites, the Caroline Place Seniors Residence, the Simpson and Waggle Law Offices at 100, right across from the GO station. Beautiful building of an old abandoned Hamilton city building. It was the Medical Offices of Health, I believe. McElrath School at 50 Murray Street. Intention, shelter. Outcome, sold out condos, I think 30 or 40 condos. Why? Because the GO trains are coming. It makes a huge difference on the ability of the downtown core when we do these projects to share the tax burden. It's been my contention that rather than being a drain on our resources and a detriment to our reputation, that the downtown core should be a tax generator for the community and a place to live in, to visit and enjoy, rather than avoid. Tax revenues from various downtown projects spread all across all of the communities to your benefit, no matter where you live, whether it's Stony Creek or Flamborough or Glanbrook or Ancaster. In my brief time in council, we have seen assessment grow on core properties by almost $2 million, with hundreds of thousands of dollars more rising beneath those tower cranes that you see in all parts of the city. Improving the city's transportation is another important strategic objective. Council's unanimous support for all-day two-way GO train service at a new station at James Street North is now becoming a reality. In June, we will hear the Metrolinx funding strategy for $36 billion of public transit initiatives throughout the GTA and Hamilton. The issue for council is not whether or when we will get LRT. A comprehensive transit plan is coming forward soon that will provide options for solving today's challenges and addressing future needs. My concern as mayor is signing on to a series of measures that will provide funds for the so-called big move with no guarantees that our timelines or priorities will align with those of Metrolinx. Hamilton taxpayers would likely want assurance that money generated in Hamilton should be applied to our transit and infrastructure requirements. The gamble that we take is that should our place be down the list of priorities, anything could happen in the future, including change of government and change of policy. Now, I made a rough estimate that should a 1% levy be added to provincial retail sales tax, our contribution in Hamilton would be roughly $100 million. So I believe we need to ensure that most of that money is spent on Hamilton priorities. And I would also give consideration to involving the public in the decision-making process. Currently, there are calls for a casino referendum. That involves outside money coming in by way of private investment. In this case, it will be the public's money funding large and expensive projects. This is done regularly in American cities with regard to major public investments, such as LRT. The public determines their wish to support the project, and they determine the level of support, which in American cities is often a sales tax increase collected in the city for that city's needs. Sometime prior to the March break, Hamiltonians should have a good idea of what is in store regarding a casino. Council continues to support the sustainability of racing at Flamborough as a component of our agricultural action plan, which was passed in 2007. However, we also know that there is interest by developers in locating a facility downtown or possibly other areas of the city. And so Council will have to weigh the benefits against the risks and negative outcomes from things such as gambling addiction. Among the benefits of an entertainment-based casino hotel development is the enhancement to the city as a destination of choice for those planning events such as conventions. And it's difficult for me as mayor to discourage a comprehensive and well-designed development opportunity on the basis that the downtown is a marginalized area in which the needy are at risk because of the proximity of gambling. In fact, it exists today in the core and throughout every neighborhood where convenience stores sell lottery tickets and instant lottery products, such as Scratch and Win. Hopefully, when the time arrives, we will have the adequate information to make the proper decision to allow the city to move forward, bearing in mind all of the issues, the health issues, the risk issues, the addiction issues, all of that has to be taken into consideration. I want to return to the comment I made at the beginning of this talk about the need for better use of technology in communicating with our taxpayers. 12 years into the millennium, still operating in many ways with the 1990s model. We are aware that the city website is not user-friendly, and I am pleased to say that our staff they're working on a model to not only fix what's not working on the current site, but to leapfrog into website accessible by people who use mobile devices. Even with our current website, fully 30% access it with a smartphone or a tablet. It's not just how people access the site, but more importantly, it's the kind of information that they can get. I look at the so-called open data models that progressive governments are starting to embrace and say, why not here in Hamilton? I don't want to get into the details of the recent setback we experienced with our Hamilton project, except to say that whatever went wrong with the execution, the concept was and is solid. To try to engage with our citizens across as many platforms as possible to find out how we can deliver better service to them. That kind of process has to continue if we're going to succeed in another of our strategic objectives, which is being to improve the city's approach to engaging and informing citizens and stakeholders. A good example of this approach is the recent Casino Forum. And I look forward to an opportunity to discuss with stakeholders across our community how we can improve the two-way flow of information through open data and any other mechanism that takes advantage of our digital capabilities. But I would add, as a caveat, as we move towards open data, those of us in government have to recognize that with open data comes the surrender of some of the power dynamic that you get when information is controlled. Open data is only as good as our willingness to trust the people who elect us, who pay the bills. Just as an aside, I was interviewed the day after my win as mayor and was asked what my first priority was, and I told Dave Shuttleworth it was to get the live streaming of all committees and council up and running. We had the equipment in there, and it still took a little while to actually get it going, but to me that is such a key to an informed and engaged citizenry. The public has a right to be upset and concerned about the recent terminations of city workers who allegedly disregarded their responsibilities as city employees. Failure to carry out work assignments by employees means wasted taxpayers' money when little or no value is produced for the city and its residents. The city manager stated this morning that the situation is precedent-setting, and many of us feel that it does actually give us an opportunity to review and repair the kind of culture and procedures that may exist in which such behavior occurs. We also have to do a better job measuring our productivity, especially on a per capita basis. The city manager recently told us that it would take several days to determine actually how many employees arrive for work on any given day. So you can see that we have a long way to go in terms of acquiring those kinds of information. The investigation of the employees was significantly aided by information collected through GPS devices attached to certain city vehicles. So this is further evidence that Hamilton has to take advantage of technologies that are now available to monitor performance and ensure productivity. Although government settings are more difficult to monitor than private industry, there are 21st century solutions available to help provide accountability to the people who pay our salaries. And it's my hope that Council will insist on a full and complete investigation to ensure that those employees who are properly carrying out their duties with a true commitment to public service are not tarnished by the transgressions of a few. It is important to remember as well, though, that even terminated employees have certain rights which can be violated by careless public statements. I regularly interact with city employees, often, for instance, at the lunch cafeteria at the Wentworth Street North City Yard. And I can tell you that they are every bit as upset about the alleged actions as any of us. Developing productive relations with senior governments is an important strategic objective, and this is an area where we have worked particularly hard. It's fair to say that our relationship with both the federal and provincial governments is the best since amalgamation. Just 2 weeks ago, I was at the Hamilton Airport thanking the Conservative federal minister and Liberal provincial minister for providing us with $8 million to increase our cargo capabilities at the airport. Just ahead of that event, we had the announcement that the province and the feds had come up with their share of the funding for Randall Reef, a huge environmental project that we finally landed. And this new approach to government relations is happening at the staff level as well. Just before Christmas, there was a meeting convened between senior staff of Hamilton, Niagara, Kitchener, Halton, and Peel to discuss a transportation vision for the future, and I can tell you that the move captured the attention of the province. And I expect to see that interregional approach to issues of regional concern to become more common at the political as well as the staff level. I recently joined with fellow big city mayors to present a united front to the federal government around the need for infrastructure and transit funding. And one of the most encouraging signs I have seen in our renaissance in Hamilton, and I don't think that is too strong a word, is the increasingly close working relationship that has developed between the municipality and its centers of higher education. When McMaster University developed the Innovation Center on Longwood Road, it represented more than a simple shift in geography to a campus closer to the city core. It marked a growing integration of the interests of the university with the social and economic needs of the community. The establishment of the McMaster Medical Center will take that integration to another level. Mohawk College continues to develop programs that are attuned to the economy of the city and region and continues to be engaged in the betterment of the community beyond the economic field. And through their investment in physical expansion, Mohawk, McMaster, and Redeemer are making significant direct contributions to the local economy. Our educational institutions are second to none in Canada, which leads me to the thought that the best place to raise a child must be the best place to educate a child, which is the acknowledged pathway to success, education. It is one of the pillars, but education without a strong economic environment will not complete the job. And when it comes to the economy, look at what others are saying about Hamilton. Site Selection Magazine, Atlanta, Georgia, ranked Hamilton as the top investment metropolitan area in Canada. For the second straight time, the Real Estate Investment Network of Calgary ranked Hamilton as the best place to invest in Ontario. So in summary, I want to paraphrase Sir Wilfrid Laurier, who said that the 20th century belonged to Canada. The 21st century belongs to Hamilton. It was a century ago that Hamilton became the ambitious city with its focus on steel and manufacturing. Now, 100 years later, it is home to one of the most diverse economies in Canada, a rating of 92 out of 100, which is one of the highest diversity ratings for industry and commerce of any city in Canada. In order to sustain this momentum, we as a municipal government need to provide ourselves with up-to-date strategies, technology, and innovation that will allow us to be a global leader among cities. Technology today allows those of us in government to engage the public more widely and in greater depth than ever before. The greatest asset of a city is its residents. In the words of Shakespeare, what is the city but the people? True, the people are the city. I really want to thank this opportunity and also to thank our sponsor, Cubes, because the way they operate their business is a model for the city, as I said earlier, to emulate. And I want to thank you once again for the opportunity of making my State of the City address in the great city of Stoney Creek. Thank you.
I'd now like to call upon John, our sponsor, to thank the mayor.
Thank you. Wow. I was thinking while the mayor was saying his speech about what's happening in Ottawa and what's happening in Queen's Park and how much is happening in Hamilton compared to those two places who've been on vacation for the last 3, 4, 5, 6 months or whatever. And even when they come back, they worry about getting one bill and one budget passed, and then they'll be on vacation for another 2 months. The mayor and the councillors in the city of Hamilton, I mean, they work every week. They don't get to take 3 months off at a time, and obvious, to me anyway, there's so many things that they have to look after. They obviously can't either. You know, they say stuff runs downhill, and sometimes that stuff is bad, but it's also prosperity runs downhill, and Cubes has been very prosperous because of our location and all the support that we get from the city of Hamilton, but that prosperity comes from the top. And all I can say is thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. One more announcement just before we leave is...
You'll do some questions and answers.
Oh, okay, good. The mayor will do some questions and answers.
Yeah, if anybody has a question, I'd be pleased to try to answer. But if not, once again, thank you so much.
Okay, you're up.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh, we do have one. Sir,
You have to wait for us from,
Mayor, we do have one.
unless, if he wants to do this from now.
That's fine.
Okay.
Okay. Is there any, in your experience living in Hamilton, is there any precedent for the public works scandal that you know of?
I'm not aware of other precedents, certainly not in the city of Hamilton. I've lived here most of my life. I would have remembered such a thing. So in terms of numbers, I believe it is unprecedented.
Bob, we heard you wanted a thorough investigation of that situation. It's already gone through the staff level. It is going to the management level. Are you prepared to pursue it as far as it goes?
That was my statement. I hope that we completely analyze the origins of this and let the chips fall where they may. We've got an opportunity now, and I'm sure the public is behind us to get to the bottom of this. And not only the public, but our city workers as well, because they are the good ones, and that's most of them, are just as embarrassed.
Do you have any concerns that there are other groups of employees who might be undertaking similar?
I would not be in a position to say that, nor would I say that, because it would tend to cast aspersions and, you know, and make a kind of an allegation that is really not proper. The work of the politicians is not to monitor and correct the activities of the employees. That falls to the city manager and his staff. And we should really step back and allow them to do their work rather than make statements which may prove troubling.
Okay, one other question about the the sales tax levy that you talked about?
The,
The 1% sales tax
yes.
levy that is being discussed for Toronto. Have there been indications that it would be province-wide or that it would be applied to the greater Golden Horseshoe?
Well, it's hard to say. GTA has special funding needs. Someone in Thunder Bay or Sudbury may say, well, why should we be chipping in? But even in Hamilton's case, if a request was made to the public to support a 1% increase in the taxes, perhaps the local, as I said in my statement, perhaps the local needs of Thunder Bay, Sudbury, Hamilton could be met by hiving off that portion of the taxes, because one of the complaints that all mayors and councillors have is the large amount of taxes that we send to the province and the feds and the little percentage that we get back. So I would suggest that a new 1% levy which would be collected within the city, would be spent within the city. But that's for our council and perhaps the public to determine.
Mr. Mayor, right now the investigation in Public Works, do you have an indication of how long this wrongdoing had been going on?
No, I'm not. Well, in this particular case, it had to do with a new asphalt recycling facility that we saw on our Public Works tour several months ago. Maria, you were on that. When was it? In September. And I believe it had just been installed then. So in this particular instance, it likely dates from then, but I couldn't be sure. That's the only connection I have, is having seen the facility in its inception.
Back to LRT, we're in Stony Creek, and Stony Creek is going to be at the border of the end of the line if an LRT is built. How do we better integrate Stony Creek into the city's transit network?
Well, the main transit issue for Stony Creek is all-day two-way GO train service. And the James Street North Gateway Station is a stepping stone to a station very close to where we are right now, perhaps, and then on into the Niagara Peninsula. So what specific LRT design is finally approved may incorporate other locations. You know, there's talk of the waterfront and the, the two GO stations and the airport. That could well be. I think McMaster's always in the mix, the Westdale to downtown. It remains to be seen, and we will get a plan from Don Hall in the very near future about the best solutions to the current problems and future needs. And at that report, we'll have a better idea of how we may want to proceed with that.
Okay, this is your third State of the City address. You have one more left before the municipal election. What do you hope to be standing up there next year and delivering?
Well, I hope to have a new suit from Stony Creek. Which I paid for myself. That's an interesting question, because right now we're in a very interesting situation. A lot of the foundational work that we needed to get done, such as all-day GO, the stadium, area rating, we've been working through that file, and then the McMaster downtown campus, and all of this stuff has just been completed. 2014 should be a wonderful year of ribbon cutting, but we will have a better idea, and I think I could probably answer you that question better perhaps later in the summer, as we get more determination from what the provincial government is going to look like, right? And these other funding issues around transit and so on.
Okay, and do you hope to do a...
Are you going to, you support the casino referendum?
Well, I support, if the public wants a referendum, and they should have a referendum. In my own mind, I think what we'll find is, and I made this stated this publicly many times, and I did this in Stony Creek. I've asked people at random, I passed little notes around, and I said, before I read the answer, yes or no, I'm going to tell you that it's going to be around 50%, it'll be slightly tilted one way or the other, and that's what it was. It was 52 to, I think you were there at that meeting. So I'm fairly sound and secure in my own mind as to the closeness of that. And, but if if the public and the council decide that a referendum is the way to go, of course. But what I want to apply that in another way, as I said in my remarks, if we're applying referenda to outside investment coming into the city, surely with the scope of infrastructure spending that's going to be required for LRT and fixing our old pipes, that maybe the public should be involved in determining if we collect money in Hamilton, how is that money going to be spent? So I think referendums are good, and that's the whole idea of open data, better informing the public, the forum that we had, anything that we can do, and as part of the mandate of the mayor and the council, is to engage the public. So.
Another one is, I assume you're going to be supporting the police services budget. It looks like some of the councillors are not going to. Are you going to be supporting the budget?
Well, of course, I supported it at the board level, so, yeah, absolutely.
Mayor Bratina, back to the casino for a second. It sounded in your remarks as though you were leaning pretty solidly in favor of a casino coming to Hamilton. We've had a lot of reaction, public reaction, a lot of very clear no reaction. Is this a way of subtly addressing the other side of the argument to encourage it?
Well, I've answered many inquiries and pleas on one side or the other. And most recently, a please no casino in our downtown, and I accept the public input. The point of my remark was that I will not, as the mayor, tell a developer you can't bring something to our downtown because it's marginalized and it's not a very nice place and you probably wouldn't want to put it here. Anyway, that's not my messaging as the mayor. So that's all I would have to say. But please don't try to read in that I've made up my mind as to what should happen. Because what is it that I'm supposed to say no to? I don't know yet.
Mr. Mayor, Police Services Board budget. If council votes down the budget and it goes back to the Police Services Board, you as mayor, will you be taking council's position or will you be supporting the budget continuing to?
I'd rather not say right now because there are several possible outcomes depending on council's decision. And that's what at that time then we'll discuss what the future moves may be. But certainly we saw in Windsor recently that the matter went to arbitration and a very large settlement in favor of the police occurred. So council will be apprised of all of that and decisions will be made. I would rather say after that, depending on how that conversation goes, what the future of the police budget will be.
Mr. Mayor, I have a quick question. If you could just clarify, you mentioned that the city is going to be redesigning their website so that it can function on mobile and tablet. Is all of that work going to be done in-house, or is there going to be an opportunity for local Hamilton firms to bid on certain parts of that project?
Mr. Murray, can you answer that question? How will we proceed in terms of procurement, design, and so on, in-house?
Yeah, once we get to that phase where we are going to settle on what specific technology we're going to employ, we go through our purchasing process, which is an open process. So it'll be publicly advertised, and you'll have an opportunity to respond to it.
So I think I'd better stop now. I'm getting a lot of media questions. I know some of you have other things to do this afternoon. So can I say once again, thank you for being such an involved.
Announcement I wanted to make today was in addition to our upcoming events. On March the 7th, Mohawk College Enterprise, which is the corporate training division of Mohawk College, will be hosting an open house in our new facilities, which are located in the Start campus just down the street from here. So you will get an invitation through the Chamber newsletter, and we hope to see all of you there. I'd also like this opportunity to thank the staff and the management of this great area we have here, this great restaurant we have here. And thank you for participating today, for coming to this event, and we look forward to seeing you at many more.
I know you have.